A little bit of NBA, a little bit of MLB to start the podcast. And I want to start with some NBA stuff. NBA free agency has got underway. We did a little preview of that on the last episode. And all things considered, not a ton of huge, significant moves in NBA free agency. A lot of the big names ended up staying put. Kyrie stays in Dallas, Draymond stays in Golden State. James Harden's status still TBD, so I guess that could be a move potentially. But some mid-level moves, some big contracts handed out to a couple guys, but nothing really too significant out of NBA free agency that we want to really get into. The one major thing that I kind of want to start with, Mitch, is the Damian Lillard situation, which we've alluded to and discussed on this podcast already, but the trade request is official now. It is official. Dame has requested a trade for the Portland Trail Blazers. The Blazers will be looking into moving on from the longtime star and face of their franchise. And I think it's an interesting situation, and not much has changed with that news. Like, we already knew this, we already speculated this, and the timeline is TBD. But Portland has been very clear. They're going to seek the best deal possible for Damian Lillard, and that's regardless of where he may want to go. So it will be interesting to see which direction they sort of go after as far as trade compensation. Obviously, he wants to go to Miami. That's where he wants to play. The problem is that Miami doesn't really have a compelling package to send back for a player like Damian Lillard. He also mentioned the Nets as a possibility. They're sort of in the same boat. Some of the other teams that have reached out reportedly, obviously, I thought this one was a little. So you have like the Los Angeles Clippers have reached out. They're a possibility, right? There's been rumors of Paul George and breaking up Kawhi and PG. So could you move PG, bring in Dame? That would sort of make sense. But on the outside of contenders thing, San Antonio and Utah have shown a lot of interest and made calls to Portland. We don't know what the deals or if they've even submitted a formal trade, like a deal to them, but there is interest from those two teams. Obviously, rebuilding teams with young pieces, very different situations for Damian Lillard, who wants to contend, doesn't want to go start a rebuild. I mean, maybe he wants to play with Wemby. That wouldn't be so bad, but it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Because again, those are the kind of teams that can offer a ton of draft picks, young players, and really give Portland what they want. But you also have a NBA superstar who's given you everything for a decade. And yet, do you owe him a little bit here and say, you know what, we'll do right by you and we'll take a good deal, but we'll try to place you in a good spot. What are your thoughts on this situation, some of the locations? And I guess that question, should Portland even consider that, Damian Lillard and what he's meant for the franchise when they make this decision, or should this just be purely a business decision and they should take the best deal available?
Yes.
Okay.
And here's why I say that is, at the end of the day, the Portland Trail Blazers are a business, right? They are in the basketball business, and they need to do the smart business thing. And so I have no doubt in my mind that they'll be looking for the best business decision for them to make. However, on the flip side of it, though, I also think that they're a organization that is, even though Dame Lillard may not be playing for them next year, they're exceptionally loyal to Dame. Mm-hmm. And that they are willing to do the best that they can to put him in a contending situation, get him to a contender, get him to hopefully his desired location, which would be Miami, and say, look, we'll try our best, but there's really no guarantees here, because at the end of the day, they do have to run a business. I think that something does get done with Miami. I think Miami gives up more than maybe they want to get Dame. And I think Miami's desperate enough, right? It's like they've been to 2 NBA finals in the last 3 years. They're right on the precipice of getting this done. They can go be an instant favorite out of the East if they add Dame Lillard to that already loaded roster, by giving up, a Tyler Hero and a ton of, Tyler Hero. I can't even.
Every draft pick and draft swap available, they would have to
put together an insane package of draft picks and pick swaps to get this done. So I think that there's both sides of that argument are going to come into play when it comes to moving Dame away from Portland.
Yeah, I do think, in my opinion, Miami has to do this. If
Yes.
any, they got to the finals twice and couldn't get through. Why? Because they needed somebody else alongside Jimmy Butler. And Bam Adebayo is a fantastic player, an all-star player, but he's not the kind of guy that wins you finals in that way. You can't give him the ball and let him work. He doesn't do that. He is a piece that complements other stars.
He's Pascal Siakam for that team.
Yeah, he's Dennis Rodman, right?
Yeah.
Like you needed him,
great, yeah.
but you couldn't have relied on him to win you championships. You couldn't be the second best player on a championship team, right? So they need somebody else, and Dame is the perfect guy. They should mortgage everything for him, and it'll probably involve a third team to bring in more assets to send back to Portland to keep them satisfied, and so we'll sort of see how that all plays out. But yeah, I mean, again, Portland has made it clear we're not in a rush. We're going to take the best deal, and we'll work our way to that best deal, whatever that looks like. And but I do think they will do right by him, and they should, in my opinion. Not like you should take absolutely. A shitty deal by any means, but like get this thing done with Miami. This guy is giving you everything. He could have left 5 years ago, and everyone would have felt like, yeah, deserved. You could leave. You've given enough already. And he, you know what I mean? He stuck around for a decade trying to take this franchise to heights. He's taken them to Western Conference Finals. And that's more than enough to deserve like getting kind of looked after here. So we'll see what happens with that situation. But sort of the one big lingering thing right now in the NBA offseason, the James Harden situation, will he end up in Philly or back in Philly? Will he end up somewhere else? I mean, we'll see at this point. The money's kind of dried up. So not a lot of places for him to go to, if not back to Philly. And then, other trade things. I think this Paul George thing is real. The noise around that the Clippers are trying to make some sort of splashy move and potentially break up that pairing that hasn't worked out there. So is that the third team that gets involved in Dame? Does PG end up somewhere? And, how does that, that's the other sort of domino I'm waiting to fall this NBA offseason. But other than that, that's pretty much where we're at as far as free agency and the rest goes. So.
Yeah, I think we're just it's a waiting game right now. We'll just have to see kind of what happens. And I think the next big thing we'll be talking about really is this Damian Lillard situation and where he winds up, or the Paul George situation. I don't foresee a very splashy offseason for the NBA. Everything kind of seems chalk right now.
Yeah, pretty quiet. And do remember, like last year, that Donovan Mitchell trade came in August. There was all this talk around the trade deadline after the Gobert trade that Mitchell was going to be traded. And then it took like a month, 4 or 5 weeks before he finally got moved. So it could happen some random Wednesday in August where he'd be sitting there and be like, oh shit, look at that. Dame got traded, so we'll sort of just keep tabs there. I did want to mention one other NBA thing, and this is interesting. And if you're an NBA fan on this podcast, you may or may not know about this. We thought it'd be interesting to discuss the new inaugural in-season tournament that the NBA is implementing in the 2023-2024 season. It's something we've discussed that they would be doing. We have more details on what this in-season tournament will look like. The in-season tournament will tip off on November 3rd and culminate in a championship hosted in Las Vegas on December 9th. How this works, or essentially the format of this, is all 30 teams have been randomly drawn into groups of 5 based on win-loss records. Beginning on November 3rd and going through November 28th, so essentially the entire month of November, each team will play 4 designated group play games, playing each team in the group, one night against the opponent, 2 at home, 2 on road, all balanced. Those will happen throughout the course of their schedule in the month of November, those 4 games. 8 teams will advance from this eliminator group play to the knockout round, being, the best standings plus like 2 wild cards. The knockout round is single elimination games in the early months of December 4th and December 5th. And then the championship game on December 5th, with the qualifying teams competing for a prize pool. So there will be a monetary compensation for the teams included in the knockout championship rounds, as well as a trophy, the NBA Cup, the little bragging rights there. All 67 games that will be played as part of this in-season tournament will count towards the regular season standings other than the championship game. So all of these games are already included in the schedule. It's not additional games. They're not playing more games now than they were before. These are all a part of the 82 games the teams would already play, with the exception of the championship game. So technically, 2 teams in the NBA will play an 83rd game with that championship game that won't count towards their standings or their record that season. And that's pretty much it. So we've got the groupings now. They've announced what the 6 groupings, East and West, will look like. And we'll see how this plays out. I personally love this idea. I think this is really interesting. I am glad that the NBA worked this into the normal schedule, that they didn't add games, they didn't make this extra things. We're playing it within the normal course of the month, which makes total sense. And November is so slow for the NBA season, Mitch. Nobody cares about basketball in November. We're full football at that point. So why not give fans an extra incentive to watch? Maybe I'll actually watch that one matchup, that, the group play matchup for that week, because hey, that'll mean something down the road, unlike that Tuesday matchup against some random team that isn't going to matter at the end of the season. So I like the timing of it, where how they're sort of playing this out. Again, we'll see how interesting it is when teams get to the knockout stage. How competitive is it? Does any, are stars sitting out, or stars playing in it? What that sort of looks like will determine a lot of the success. But I like the idea. I think the idea is good, and I'm totally down for trying new things, especially when it doesn't mess too much with the normal integrity of the schedule and sort of the flow of everything. So
what's the incentive for winning this then?
I don't have the I know I've seen the number already of what the prize will look like. But it's not in this article specifically, but there will be monetary for the knockout round. So for the 8 teams that reach that knockout round, there will be prize money included based on how well they finish throughout that. So you get a little bit of, bonus if you get to that stage.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm skeptical. I'm just skeptical, and I'm kind of an old head anyway. So, I'm always a little bit skeptical when it comes to change. I don't know if I mean, the incentive would have to be pretty big for teams in an era where we're so worried about load management and how many games a guy plays, which I think is a bunch of baloney anyway. But in an era where that's such a concern, I have a hard time believing that if the incentive's not that big, I don't see how that changes that if stars play more games, because there's that big of an incentive to go and win this midseason tournament. It almost seems like it's just a bragging rights thing. And so, I'm skeptical. I mean, sure, I guess it would be a fun way for fans to keep track of how this midseason tournament is going, but kind of like introducing fantasy sports into the real world a little bit, like a real world application for it. But it's a little, I'm not on board yet. I guess I just have to see it first. But.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and a lot depends on too, like how the teams receive it, how the players receive it, how they treat it. Again, if they're disinterested, fans will be disinterested, right? It's just as simple as that.
Right.
So the players have to be engaged and interested. And you're right. If LeBron was going to sit on a Tuesday night in November anyways, is he going to sit for the group play game, right? For the in-season tournament? If he was going to sit on that Tuesday night anyways, is he playing? Is it that much more incentive for him to play in that game, or is he sitting out anyways? And if he's sitting out anyways, then right, what is the cost? What is the added benefit here? Other than, I guess, just something a little more interesting in November when people don't really care about basketball. And I guess that's where, from the NBA's perspective, from the marketing perspective of the NBA, I think this is a great idea, because you're getting more interest in your sport in a time where people are least interested in your sport, right? And in that makes a lot of sense. Will it actually work? Again, TBD. But I hope the players care about it a little bit. I hope the games are competitive and at least interesting, because I think it's a good idea. I think it's fun to keep things interesting, especially during a slow time of your season. And the NBA season is long, 82 games, and it overlaps with the other sports. And so the interest sort of wanes and it goes and it ebbs and flows, right, until you kind of get to playoff time. So I like that they're trying to think of ways to make it more interesting, and we'll see what it looks like this year.
Yeah. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, the monetary, I think I heard it's like the winning team is like 100,000 per player. It's not going to be, it's not motivating guys making $30 million to do anything probably much different, but a nice little bonus, I guess. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
We wouldn't complain about 6K, six figures in our bank account for a little bonus.
I'd play every minute of those games to get 6K.
I'd be crawling on the ground being like,
my fat ass passed out of half court. It's like, I'm going for those 6 figures.
Oh yeah, seriously.
I'm gonna look like the fat guy from Longest Yard, just laying there. But give me a can of corn.
A can of corn, I'll be fine.
Give me a Diet Coke.
Oh man, love it.
Oh man. Well, going from one portion of the sports world to another, down we had MLB All-Star Week this last week. We had the Home Run Derby on Monday night, which, by the way, if you didn't tune into that, what a fun event. I think the best All-Star event in all of sports still going right now. I mean, it's unmatched. It's fun. Adley Rutschman in that first round was incredible to watch. Hit 21 home runs from the left side of the plate, got his bonus time, stepped over to the right side of the plate, and then hit 6 more out. Mm-hmm. That was fun to watch. J-Rod, Julio Rodriguez, put on an absolute show for the hometown crowd, hitting 41 home runs in the first round and a home run derby record. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. winds up winning the home run derby, though. A really, really fun event to watch. And then the All-Star game last night, National League getting it done 2-3 over the American League.
Like first time in like a decade or like 8 years or something like that. It
had been a while.
The NL had won. I was like, what?
It had been a
crazy.
Long time. Yeah. But I love the All-Star weekend for Major League Baseball. I think it is the best All-Star week that we have in sports right now. NHL is a close second. I think they have a pretty solid All-Star week as well. But I hate that every club has to be represented in this. Can you tell me who Brent Rooker is? Yeah, no I'm idea. An A's. I'm an A's fan. I had no idea who he was. And I mean, I'm not watching a ton of A's games right now because why would I put myself through that torture?
You're not a masochist.
But he's making the All-Star team as a DH because someone from the A's has to be on this team. I feel like when we get like that, every team has to be represented in the All-Star game. We're taking guys off the roster that deserve to be there more. I'm kind of over the equal representation throughout the league. If you don't have an All-Star, you don't have an All-Star.
Yeah,
you just don't. And I think that Major League Baseball should take a look into that because I think it takes away from the quality of the game when you don't have the best players playing from top to bottom. And some guys are sitting it out. And for being such a successful weekend, it does put kind of a damper when I have to sit there and watch Brent Rooker taking at bat or, Austin Hayes taking at bat. I'm not in on this whole equal representation across the league.
That's fascinating because they are the only, at least, and I'm not sure 100% on the NHL, so I won't speak for the NHL, but among the NBA and MLB and NFL, they are the only league that does that. And I do think, it is sort of an interesting situation on the one hand, right? You think if you're the MLB, well, if we include one player from every team, well, then all MLB fans will be interested in our All-Star week, right? Because everyone's represented, and so everyone will be interested. But on the other hand, are you making people disinterested because you're inviting players that don't really belong and leaving off players that do, right? And so there is a balance to that, and I'm with you. And listen, and this is why this is great, because this is coming from Mitch, the A's fan, who didn't know the A's player. So Mitch is coming out here saying, listen, guys, like, I don't even know who this kid is, so we're doing something wrong. Like, we're probably doing something wrong. So I'm with you there.
I want to read you his statistics for the season.
Okay.
260 at-bats.
Okay.
Hasn't played a full season.
Yeah.
He's batting 246 with 16 home runs and 44 RBIs. Doesn't sound like an all-star to me, right?
That's an all. Wow. Oh yeah.
Doesn't sound like an all-star to me.
No.
I mean,
no.
Look, and it's just that it's taking more talented, more deserving players off the field. And you brought up, maybe if we include a player from every team, that will add how many more fan bases want to tune into the All-Star game. No A's fan is tuning in to watch Brent Rooker. Okay. Yeah. We're not tuning in to watch Brent Rooker because he's going to get his 1AB. He's going to pop out weak down the third baseline in foul territory. And then what? We tuned in to watch that one at bat? No, we want to tune in and watch Vlad Guerrero hit. We want to tune in and watch Shohei Ohtani hit and Garrett Cole pitch. We want to see Freddie Freeman and Sean Murphy. We want to see Zach Gallen and Spencer Strider. We want to see those guys play. I don't want to see Brent Rooker play. Right. Brent Rooker doesn't deserve to be there.
Yep. It's an all-star game.
It's an all-star game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. And again, it is kind of interesting because, MLB, the only one that does it this way. And there's a part of it that makes sense, but there's also a part of it of, are you limiting the quality? Are you tainting the quality of your game and what it means to be an all-star if you're forcing people to get in just to meet a requirement, not because they actually deserved it. So, I think that's fair. Yeah.
But, I mean, other than that, it was a great All-Star week. I thought the game was entertaining.
Hosted in Seattle. You love to see that. The Home Run Derby was excellent.
Seattle, what a beautiful stadium, too, by the way.
Oh,
I mean, they always
is one of the best.
Yeah.
One of my favorite places to watch a game.
I haven't been to a game in Seattle, but just from the optics looking, I'd be driving by it or seeing it on TV. It's beautiful. For me, AT&T or Oracle.
Great. That's
San
number
Francisco.
one.
Is a beautiful stadium, but
it's the hardest thing for me to say as a Dodgers fan, but they have the best setting. They have the best baseball stadium in the country, maybe the world. I haven't been around that much, but it is the best. It is hands down the best. And
I'll tell you what, when I walk into that stadium, I feel like Borat walking into the hotel room, like whoa,
especially coming from the Coliseum.
Yeah, because I got to go to the Coliseum to watch my team, so. The king of the castle. You could never get this.
The castle. That's amazing. Too funny. Love it.
Yeah.
oh man.
But Dallin, speaking of baseball, All-Star Week, Home Run Derby, right? We saw some of the best sluggers. By the way, Home Run Derby, I didn't mention him, but shout out Mookie Betts for getting involved in the Home Run Derby. He had said multiple times in his interview, I'm not going to win this thing. Like, there's no way I'm going to win this thing. And shout out to his wife, too, for talking him into it.
Yeah.
To just kind of like, hey, just go do it. Say you did it and have fun. Mm-hmm. I think he hit like 11 home runs in the first round, which was by far the fewest.
Yeah.
But you know what? It was fun to see a guy like that who's obviously, he's a top tier player. He is an S tier player in baseball right now. And to see him participate in an event like that was definitely a ton of fun to watch.